Hey folks, welcome back. So I'm sure that you all recall that last week was just a super exciting week because we were working on getting ready to put floor in up in the loft area up here. So to prepare for that, the boards that we're going to be using for the floor are actually kind of recycled, reclaimed from the farmhouse. And when they got ripped out, of course, some of the nails, most of the nails actually, stayed in the boards. And so before we can reuse these, we kind of got to pull all the nails out of there. So I expect that this week we're going to have just an equally as exhilarating week as we did last week, because first off, these ones are already all done. We got all the nails out of here, so these need to go up there with the rest of them that we've done. Get those up there, then we'll get more boards and pull more nails, and then if we're lucky, and I'm not making any promises here, so don't go hold me to anything here, but if we're lucky, we might start putting in some floorboards the end of this week. But first off, let's get these guys up in the loft. Alright, well I think you know the drill at this point, but since we got those up in the loft of the Millhouse, that means it's time to come back up here to the old tobacco barn and load up with some more floorboards. Alright, so as you can see, we're back down at the Millhouse. We got our floorboards over here, but we got a little bit of a problem. So these boards tended to be a whole lot longer than the other two loads that we brought down here. So we're running into a little bit of an issue that we got some stuff stacked along the side, because we want to get these boards right over here. So that way we can have the empty forks over here, and then our boards will be over there, and as we pull nails out we can load them back into the emptied forks, so then we could just hook right up to them with the loader and move them out of here. But as it is right now, we can't quite get them through here because we got that over there, we got our chair, our bucket full of nails. There's about 10 pounds of old rusty nails in there now, so we got to move this stuff out of the way so we can get our boards over there, so that we can then move them back over here once the nails are out of them. Alright, well I think it's time to start on the fun part of this project again, of pulling some more nails out of the boards. Alright, so last night we finished off pulling all the nails out of our, I think it's our third load of floorboards that we initially came from the farmhouse that were up in the barn and are now down here. But before we bring those up here into the loft of the area, what we're going to do is we're going to sort through this stack. And I actually probably should have done this as I was unloading the boards from the forks into here. But we actually have two slightly different widths of floorboards. There may be, I don't know, a quarter-inch, half-inch difference in width, and there's a slight amount of thickness difference as well. So what we're going to want to do, of course, is to kind of group them together so that there's only one seam difference between the two types, because we're definitely going to have to use both types of them. In fact, there's also a third width up in the barn that I don't exactly recall where it came from in the farmhouse. That one was kind of confusing me a little bit because I just don't remember them. But they're more like a, I don't know, 4 or 5 inch wide one, but it's got the same color finish and everything as these do. So I think it must have come from the same area. But anyway, what we're going to do here is we're going to sort through what we have up here now and split it into two different stacks. We'll have one of them right here where it is now. We'll put another one over here beside it and sort it out into the two different widths of boards. Alright, we got our stuff all sorted out. There's the narrower stuff. That's our wider stuff. Of course, there is the even wider ones up in the barn yet. But for what we got down here, those are our two stacks. So, it took a little longer than I thought it was going to. I wasn't initially planning on actually stacking it. But then I decided, you know, make it look a little nicer. I'd be able to have a little rough idea of how much I've got. So, I decided to stack it too. So, let's bring our third load of boards up here and get them sorted out between these two stacks. We got all of it loaded off from the forks over there. We got our two stacks here. So I did some rough calculation, and when I say rough, I mean really, really rough. I counted up the number of layers in each stack, and then I did a really rough estimation of the square footage of each layer. And of course, you can see they're all different lengths, so it's, like I said, really rough. But I think we're pretty close for what we're going to need to do the floor up here. I really doubt that it's going to be all of it, but this is the majority of what we're going to need. So I'm thinking that tomorrow we'll start working on putting some of this flooring down. We're going to go ahead and put the miter saw on the forks here, get that lifted up here, and then I guess we'll be ready to go tomorrow. Alright, well today, like I said, we are going to work on trying to put some of these floorboards in. Well, we are jumping ahead in time just a little bit. I decided that for the first few runs of boards across here, I was just going to work on that. I wasn't going to mess with cameras. So we have 4 lengths of boards going across here. It's about a foot wide. So it's enough that it kind of gives me something I can sit on here, and I'm able to walk back and forth across here. I've got some boards over here, cut the length, so those are ready to go. So now I'm gonna set you guys up, get you a good spot to watch from, and we'll put some more boards in here. Well, we got another 4 rows down, so we're up to 8 going across here. I've got another row laid out ready to go here. We are running low on light, so we're going to put in this last row and then we're going to call it a day. Well, that is about 2 feet of floorboards done. So we've got 24 feet going across here, so we're, 1/12 of the way there. So this is gonna be it for this week's video. Now before I close it out, I want to address some of the comments from last week's video, which is actually the video that was today in my time, but last week in your time, because I'm a week ahead of where you guys are. But anyways, a couple of you mentioned or strongly suggested that I should put in a subfloor, which obviously I'm not doing. So you mentioned you're a bit concerned that this was going to be too thin and it wasn't going to be strong enough. So the upper area of the Millhouse here, I'm not planning on using it for anything really heavy, anything like that. It's mainly going to be for lighter storage, sort of a area to store some tools. I'm not planning on having anything really heavy in here. Now, the one exception to that would of course be the wood stove. Where that's going, of course, I've already put in an extra joist going through there, and I will be putting on an extra layer or 2 of board on top of the boards that I'm putting down now, so there'll be extra boards on top there. I'll probably have them perpendicular to each other so that it kind of spreads it out all over. So I will be reinforcing the floor over there, but for the rest of this, I just don't see the need. It's been something that I, of course, thought about before I started on this, and I kind of went back and forth on it a little, and I finally decided, I really don't need to do it for what I'm going to be using this area for. So I am reading your comments. I do pay attention to what you guys say. I am not just ignoring your advice. However, I will say that if I ever do have any issues and it's not thick enough or strong enough or whatever, I fully expect, and I would actually be disappointed if you guys don't say I told you so. However, I don't think it's going to be a problem for what I'm planning on doing. So with that said, this is going to be it for this week. Next week we'll just be continuing on through here. I don't know how much we'll get done, but hopefully we'll have a good chunk of this done, a good chunk of it floored by the end of next week. But I guess we'll both see in next week's video. So as always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you next week.